So thank you for coming to this session. Scott Moore is currently the CFO/COO responsible for directing Intergraph Process Power Marine's worldwide finance and business operations, including accounting, financial reporting, planning and analysis, contracts, purchasing facilities, information technology, mergers and acquisitions, order management delivery, and human resources. He has served Intergraph since 1993 in various key roles and assisted its move from a U.S. publicly traded company to a private equity ownership to now part of Hexagon AB, a European publicly traded company. He holds a bachelor's degree in economics from Vanderbilt University and an MBA from the University of Alabama. Please welcome Scott Moore.
Thank you. Good morning. I hope you all enjoyed the keynote this morning. I certainly did. I'm a big blackjack player, so I really enjoyed Jeff's talk and look forward to taking some helpful hints from him to win at the tables more often, I hope. But I, like you, when I attend these type conferences, I really try to look for those content presentations where I can take one or two helpful things with experiences and take that back to my business and try to research that and implement that in our own company. So I hope to be able to, with these 4 questions, give you some helpful hints on what we've struggled with at Intergraph and hopefully give you a feel for some of the issues that we've run into. And so these are sort of the 4 questions that I'm going to try to address during the presentation. And I'm sure these are questions that you struggle with in your company today. Me being the CFO, I certainly struggle with having access to the pipeline. And many times I tell our sales folks, you know, it's being surprised to the good side is almost as bad as being surprised to the bad side. And so having that global pipeline access is really a problem in today's world if you don't have the proper systems. The second thing is, if your company is like Intergraph, we struggle with multiple systems. We have a lot of Excel programs, manual programs, and multiple systems doing the same thing across the world, and so that's a problem. The third thing is, you know, do you struggle with getting access to your customers' data? How much does the customer spend with you? What licenses, if you sell software, what licenses do they have? How much support issues do you have with your customers? So having access to that customer data. And then one thing that we struggle with being a global company with 45 subsidiaries around the world is we have these local subsidiaries that like to do their own thing. They think they're the king. They control the systems, and we always, at least from a corporate hat, struggle with the corporate versus the local fiefdoms, I call it. And that's a really big problem with Intergraph that I've tried to address with this project. So the agenda really is to give you a quick overview of Intergraph, also our parent company, Hexagon AB, talk to you a little bit about our current sales automation footprint and our challenges, talk about the sales automation project that we have underway here at the company, and then give you some conclusions and lessons learned. But real quickly, Intergraph, we have 2 different divisions. We're a $1 billion software company focused on engineering, information management software, and GIS software. The division that I work in, we're the leading provider of engineering, enterprise engineering software that designs all types of facilities, whether that be a plant, a ship, or offshore platforms. We have a number of solutions across the spectrum from detailed design all the way through operations and maintenance of a plant. We're very globally dispersed, so Intergraph has a wide range of revenue. As I said, we have about 45 subsidiaries around the world, and we have our revenue spread across the world in about a third of the major regions. And we serve some of the largest customers in the world, whether they're engineering customers who design and construct these facilities, or the large owner-operators who own, operate, and maintain these facilities, whether that be Exxon, Shell, etc. And so our software does all this complex engineering, piping, HVAC, electrical for nuclear power stations, for offshore platforms, for large container vessels with processing facilities on top of the ship. So we have very complex engineering software, mainly on-premise, very expensive, low-volume, high-dollar software, $50,000 a seat type software. Very direct sales approach. Our parent company is Hexagon. They're about a $3 billion company, so Intergraph is about a third of the company. Our parent company, publicly traded on the Swedish exchange. Multiple industries, that we serve across the Hexagon suite. My business unit is mainly in power and energy, but we're very dispersed around the world. And basically, in a nutshell, Hexagon has a series of hardware and software solutions that really fuse the digital world from the real world. That's in a nutshell what we do. So that's a very brief introduction of Intergraph and Hexagon, and let me get into our project itself. About 2 years ago, I wanted to come up with a key phrase or an important project name to resonate with our company. And I think it's interesting that the conference here is called Accelerate. I had the sort of same thought. I wanted to accelerate our velocity, accelerate our revenue. And so we named this Formula One Turbo Project internally as our code name of our project. And to give you a good feel for the project, I first want to talk about sort of the mess that we have currently. We chose, our CEO over 10 years ago chose to implement Salesforce.com, a very top-down approach with little to no influence or direction from the users, sales reps, the user community. And so what we got was 10 years of the system not being used. And so unfortunately it's been a complete waste of effort and time over this last 10 years because it was a very top-down approach. And I wanted to change that. The second thing is we have a multitude of systems for quotation around the world. With 45 subsidiaries, you can imagine everyone wants to do their own thing, right? And so we have about 25 different quotation systems around the world. Our Salesforce usage is very country specific, so it's only used in those countries where the country manager forces its usage, right? And so it's not a globally accepted tool for many reasons. Our order administration process is very cumbersome. We don't have reference contact information, reference content information for our sales reps in the system. Our price book is very cumbersome. We have a very complicated tiered structure, pricing structure. We have a direct sales model and an indirect model where we have a series of dealers and distributors. We have complicated uplift structures in countries, transfer pricing complexity, so our pricing is extremely complicated, and I wanted to simplify that. So basically the F1T project, I introduced this almost 2 years ago, and the goals of the project were to improve visibility into the pipeline for sure, make Salesforce the single source of truth, and I'll come back to that at the end of the presentation. I think that's very, very important, especially when you have a Salesforce implementation that's failed in the past. I wanted to eliminate redundant systems, and I wanted to increase agility for our sales reps, our sales management team, and do more collaboration. Our business is very global in nature. We have interconnected customers, and so these large engineering companies who build these facilities around the world, they're very global, and so our information needs to be globally connected, and it was very decentralized. And so from a sales rep perspective, we did not have a good global view of our customers. And I wanted speed, of course. The benefits, what I really focused on was better sales forecasting and also giving the sales reps some time back in their day. They were spending time, duplication of effort, entering information in Salesforce, entering information in a different quotation system, entering information in a different CRM system, and I wanted to bring that together and utilize the Salesforce/Apttus platform to better control that. So this led to a series of decisions that I think are important. If you're in an organization that's very decentralized, I think there is a case for making some top-down decisions, but I think you have to then build from the ground up, sometimes over a long period of time, some momentum in making change. And so these are sort of the tenets that I chose to implement. First of all, Salesforce was going to become the master record system of record. If it's not in Salesforce, it doesn't exist. That was the first mandate that we had, and it's challenging even today because sales reps by nature do not want visibility. They do not like visibility. They don't want you to know what's in their pipeline. They don't want you to know what's going to be booked this quarter, next quarter. And I've spent the last 2 years, Raymond from Blue Wolf is here, our partner, can tell you, evangelizing this through our sales reps, letting them know they're not the only human on earth that needs data. We have business development people, product managers, development people, executive management that need access to information, and we need to know what deals you're working on both this quarter, next quarter, and in the future. And so a lot of time spent selling that vision. We're eventually looking at migrating our Siebel system to Salesforce. I'm not an Oracle fan, and I'll be the first one to tell you. And so I have sort of an internal thing in the company. We're getting rid of all Oracle stuff. But we're looking heavily at the Salesforce platform for support, statistics, and tracking. And so that's a longer range decision, but something that we're moving toward today. We selected Apttus as our CPQ CLM tool globally. We're not going to allow the countries to do their own thing when it comes to contract management and quotation generation. And so we made a global decision. You will use this, but again, we're doing it also from the grounds up and showing them why that makes sense and the benefits that they can see from that. We're also evaluating Apttus for additional functionality that I'll talk about in a minute. I want to turn off the legacy quotation systems and the legacy kind of forecasting systems. So that was a big decision. And then as I talked about, we hired Blue Wolf. Raymond's here from Blue Wolf, our partner. I highly recommend this company. I chose to take a global approach to the implementation rather than letting local partners in each country work on the project for a couple of reasons. I wanted consistency, number one. Number two, I wanted a company that understood Apttus, and so they have a practice, of course, in Salesforce and Apttus. They also have the ability to keep me centered on the project from one single source, one partner, and learn from all the different countries in one way. So I debated on doing the local approach versus a global system integrator approach, and chose Blue Wolf, and that's been very well received. This is our system map. We're a Dynamics GP house. We have multiple instances of Great Plains. We load that data every month into an SAP BPC system for financial reporting. And then we have a system, our parent company uses Hyperion, so we have to then load those results into the Hexagon Hyperion system. We have Salesforce and Siebel, so our three core systems are Great Plains, Siebel, and Salesforce, but as I mentioned before, we're looking at consolidating that into Salesforce and Great Plains GP, Dynamics GP over time. And we are working on a data warehouse to pull data from all of those different systems and serve that up to the management team so that they don't have to go into each individual system. They have dashboards, they will have dashboards set up for their business, their country, et cetera, and then we're going to make that accessible with mobile reporting. One of the things that I think that I'm seeing, I'm not sure if you're seeing this trend in your business, but I'm seeing more and more functionality moving away from the ERP system and more into these CRM systems. And so I never thought there would be a day where sort of the ERP system would be the side system. And so we're putting more and more data, more and more workflow into Salesforce and the Salesforce engine, Apttus engine. So we're looking at Salesforce to manage our order processing, our orders, even revenue management, revenue recognition in Apttus. We're looking at that. That's definitely a far cry from where we were 10 or 15 years ago. So more and more of the processes and systems are moving toward the front end, and you're using at least that's what I'm saying, more of the ERP system for the back end invoicing, the guts of the system, AP, AR, invoicing. And so we're really changing the way we are working across our global enterprise, where the order administrators are going to be Salesforce knowledgeable, the contracts people, not only just the sales reps, everyone thinks of sales, but it's going to be support people, business development folks, order administrators, finance team, et cetera, are all going to be live in the Salesforce/Apttus system. With that, we went through a period where we evaluated CPQ, CLM tools. And we spent 6 to 12 months doing this evaluation. We looked at a multitude of systems. We started off looking at about 20 different systems. Then we narrowed it down to Apttus, Big Machines, and Steel Brick. And we involved, again, trying to evangelize the change. I didn't want to make the same mistake of top-down decisions. So we involved about 20 sales reps in the evaluation of the tools. And I think that was very important. They had a say in which tool we selected. We consulted a lot with Blue Wolf, our partner, on which tool could grow with us and which one could handle the intergraph complexity. I know I've spent many time talking with Raymond about how complex we are. I think he sees now what I meant. But I think at the end of the day, the only enterprise solution that could really handle a technical, very complicated, global, multi-currency, multi-tiered pricing company was Apttus. And so we didn't take that decision lightly. And we went through a pretty rigorous process to make that decision. We like the fact that it looks like you're inside of Salesforce, so the sales reps who are already using Salesforce, they don't feel like there's any difference. They're on the same tool. And we even reevaluated Steel Brick after the Salesforce acquisition, which happened, I don't know, in the last 12 months or so. I was worried about jumping on the wrong horse long term, but Steel Brick at that point in time just wasn't there. And so the complexity that we have as a business that maybe is not in your business, Steel Brick could not handle. So sort of 12 months after the decision, I'm still happy about our decision with Apttus. We're going through the project now as we speak. And this is our current roadmap. We went through what we call discovery sessions with our countries. And I think that was critical, where we went out to the countries and we selected 6 or 8 countries and we listened to their needs, their requirements. You know, how do you quote customers? What special conditions do you have? All of the input we received from those countries, and then we packaged that up into requirements documentation, and then we worked on implementing a pilot system. I chose to go small, and so we selected 3 countries, and I on purpose selected the 3 most difficult countries that we have. From a sales management perspective, we have a couple of dictators in our countries. I have a couple of Salesforce haters. The guy who runs our Spanish operation, he hates Salesforce. He's an old school sales rep. And I thought if I could convince him to use Salesforce in this new way of working, then the rest of the countries are going to be easy. So we on purpose selected difficult, one easy one and 2 difficult countries, Australia, US, and Spain. And we're currently going through a pilot program now to go live in the summertime with this new CPQ process, where we're automating the quotation process, eliminating the legacy quotation system, implementing a new price book system that has easy search capability instead of manual setup like we had before. And we're going to go live in the summer with those 3 countries. We'll then spend a couple of months making sure those countries are performing well. The last thing I need is, if your organization's like mine, sales reps talk among each other all over the world. So I need to get these 3 countries happy so they'll spread the gospel, let's say, around the world. So we're going to make sure that we spend the proper amount of time to implement it in those 3 countries successfully. And then 2018, we're going to spend basically in waves rolling out this new system to the rest of the 40 plus countries. And that's the route that we've chosen. Then in sort of 18, we'll start the planning process for the CLM implementation. I'm really excited about the CLM piece because right now we have major problems with our contracting strategy. Both from sales reps have no idea where the contracts are. They're in somebody's email or on their desk, or heaven forbid somebody who's left and has the contract, we don't have a copy of it. We have a massive problem with just contract repository issues. In addition, the thing that I like about the CLM piece is it allows your attorneys and your contract administrators to work inside the system, negotiate on the fly with the customer so that the sales rep sees that activity as it's happening. And that's something we don't have today. The sales reps complain, it goes into the contract's black hole, they call it. and they don't know what's happening. Now, in this new workflow, everyone will be able to see the contracts work that's happening inside the customer account, and there'll be more visibility into that process. So I'm really excited about that piece, and that's a little bit challenging too, because we just using additional tools like that is not standard for the contracting kind of legal attorney environment that we have within our company, but they're very excited about it. And I think I knew we were on the right track when my head divisional counsel, we have about 25 attorneys globally around the world, and he came to me privately and said, when we implement this system, I think we can cut our contract staff in half. So that's not my intention. I actually want to use those other 12 to accelerate other revenues, and it wasn't really a forward-looking thing that I thought I could do, but I know we're on the right track because the system allows them to be much more efficient with how they work. So the outcome, a couple more slides. The outcome, what I expect the outcome to be. I want to avoid duplication of effort. Right now our sales reps enter so much data in their quotation system, then they have to enter the same data in Salesforce. And with the Salesforce Apttus combination, the sales rep can now work in the opportunity, push a button and issue a quote to the customer, or start with a quote and retrofit it back as an opportunity. So that it works both ways, and it eliminates that dual entry. So that is I talked to you about trying to convince the sales reps this is the right way to go. This is where I got their attention. They were spending hours, 2 hours in the hotel at night updating Salesforce and then using a different quotation system. This helps them reduce their admin time during the work week, and that's where I got their attention to use Salesforce. Contract flexibility, as I talked about, we're also going to put in the system customer history spend and license tracking. So that's another problem we have in our setup today. Our sales reps do not know what their customers have, and so we're going to populate the system. So again, it's giving one more reason for the sales rep to want to use the system. Today they have to ask manually. Tomorrow it'll all be inside their platform of usage. Cost reduction, I'm looking at advantages for the business, cost reductions and eliminating those systems, higher adoption of Salesforce. Two other things that I've recognized that aren't on this slide. One of the things I'm finding is that I think we're going to generate another 2 to 5% in additional revenue globally, and for $1 billion company that's material, in less discounting. What I mean by that, because today we do not have a platform that measures what the sales reps do, and we have manual approval cycles, and this country has this level of authority, in this country the sales reps do whatever they like, right? But by instituting a standard process for managing discounts, what we've already found in our pilot countries is we're able to mitigate or reduce the customer discounting by a factor of 2 to 5%. So that's one side benefit that I'm seeing, that once we get this tool globally implemented, it's going to be a huge increase to our bottom line in managing customer discounting, and that's really a side benefit that I really didn't expect. M&A, just last thing on M&A, we've done about 25 acquisitions over the last 15, 20 years, and it's a complete nightmare to integrate those companies. As any of you who are involved in integration, now I will have a platform where I can turn their manual systems off and say, use this setup and configuration in the cloud. Yesterday that was difficult, tomorrow that's going to be really, really easy, and that's going to lead to faster integration, reduced cost, and faster revenue on those M&A targets. Finally, with the minute I have left, just conclusions and lessons learned. The top-down decision did not work for us. It was expensive and not productive. And so I've learned my lesson the hard way, being with this company 25 years, that I needed to do something from the ground up and get some buy-in from the sales reps in the community. And that's taken, unfortunately, 2 years, but it's going to pay off in the end. Change management was critical. We actually have a change management consultant as part of the Blue Wolf practice. I was skeptical of that. Raymond knows. I didn't feel like that was worth the money, but at the end of the day, again, you're changing a culture, so you constantly have to be on the front end, communicating your vision and message to your team. Listening to the sales reps, that's important. I make a habit during this project. I usually call 2 or 3 sales reps a month just to find out what they're thinking. What do you think of the project? What can we do differently? It helps me connect with those sales reps. If it's not in Salesforce, it doesn't exist. That's a critical thing that I think if you're not doing that today in your system, in the future, if it's not in Salesforce, we're not going to pay a commission, and that ends it when you go to that point. Executive cheerleader for our company, I'm that person. Give your sales reps a reason to use the system, not just to update my manager for the sales forecast. That's what we have today. They do it just to update management, and that's the wrong approach. And then finally, select a good partner. I've talked about Blue Wolf. I highly recommend them for your implementation. They've been great to work with, and that's it for me. I hope you've gotten a few helpful hints. I'm available for any questions that you have after the event, and good luck if you're on one of these journeys yourself, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.